If it is a person who has escaped so many times in jail and he has succeeded in doing it, it is none other than a person called Stephen. Stephen has been able to escape from jail for more than 3 times, which we can say he has escaped from jail for 4 times. And all of these times he has escaped very magnificent ways. And these are the some of the top jails in the United States of America. And he was able to escape inside this jail. Until today, I'll be telling you the story where he is, if he's in jail or he's released. But this man has been able to fool the FBI's, and he has been able to evade and also escape from jails in certain type of ways which you cannot even imagine. His brilliance and also his way of communication and also his confidence has made him be able to escape from these jails. In some of the occasion, he has even called the people which are the head of jails and told them that he's a certain type of person and he wants this type of inmate to be released. This is the type of person and the confidence this person has. He was calling inside the jail's phone, but he calls the dean's office and tells the dean's office, I want this person to be released in this amount of cash. But the dean believed. And this was made possible by during the time of 1980s and 1990s. That during that time there was something which was called telephone booths, and telephone booths were, it was very difficult for you to see the number which was calling you. So this was a loophole for him, so that a loophole for him which he could be able to utilize. So this story of Steven started when he was fired by his boss. He was working in a particular company where his boss fired him without any reason. It was unfair for him to be fired, and this is what drove Steven for him to become a fugitive and to become a person which scams people, and also a person which uses his communication skills and his confidence to get away with a lot of trouble. So Steven, at first, what he did after being fired by his boss, he was able now to go and now started looking for other jobs. Which the first job which he was looking for, he wanted to deal with insurance fraud. And after dealing with this insurance fraud, it's when he started now looking for other jobs which will now help him in his career. But at first, Steven chose the wrong career. Although he had a brilliant mind, but he chose the wrong things to do, and this is what had led him to into trouble. So Steven now, when he was doing some insurance job, he faked some particular documents which were found not to be true documents, which were found to be false documents. And this led to Steven to be caught and by the police, and he was put into prison in the local county prison in USA. And this, he was given a sentence of 6 months. But Stephen didn't want to complete these 6 months. He tried to look for any loophole inside that prison, and he was able to find a loophole where particular workers are able to come and clean that prison without being asked, without even so much security. So Stephen saw that these workers were coming with some types of clothes, and these clothes were just typical home clothes. There was nothing more fancier upon them. It was just the typical home clothes. And if he had an idea, if he could be able to masquerade himself as this type of workers, he'll be able to escape that prison. So what Stephen did, he decided to now go and also contact his friend, and told his friend that he needs some home clothes, and if it will be possible for him to bring him home clothes inside that particular jail. And the friend agreed to this particular idea, and Stephen got his pair of home clothes in that particular jail. And this pair of home clothes, he also aided. He also had seen that these particular workers, one thing that they had some particular walkie-talkies which they used to talk through the phone, and these walkie-talkies will be able to communicate with other people. So what he did and also required is another type of walkie-talkie that will resembles the ones that the workers were using. So Stephen was able to get a walkie-talkie and also home clothes. And after getting this, his plan was up to up to him now to try and escape. And at first, he wore those home clothes and also walkie-talkie. He pretended that he was talking to people and also instructing some things to happen on the walkie-talkie. So the prison guards saw that this was a normal person and also this was a worker. So what Stephen did, he didn't hesitate on his time. What he did, he just went there and to that door and instructed the person which was responsible for opening the door to open that particular door. So when he instructed that person to open the person looked at Stephen and saw that Stephen is a legal person which comes here to work. And one thing about Stephen, he had confidence and he didn't show any sign of uh, uh, nervousness or being afraid. So the person which was responsible for opening issued that Stephen could be open for the gate, and Stephen was able to get out because they opened for him. So after Stephen getting out, now he started his spree, and he was a fugitive for more than 2 years. Remember that time they were aware that Stephen was had escaped from that jail, and he now started they started looking for him. But remember, Stephen term was only 6 months, so he wasn't they weren't looking for him that much. So they were able to catch him after 2 years, where he did some particular mistake which led him to be interrogated by particular parole people and also FBI's and police. And after being investigated and also being talked to by these particular police officers, they were able to find out that Stephen was a fugitive in a particular jail. And what they decided to do is to take him back to court so that he can be given a new fresh sentence. And what the judge said, he should finish the ones which he had remained, which was in that 6 months. So he was in jail for almost 4 months. After being almost for 4 months, at this time, Stephen accepted to be in jail for those months. He didn't want to escape. But after getting out of prison, he had an opportunity to live a nice life. But Stephen went back to his old ways, and he went back to stealing and also faking insurance documents. And one of the things which led to Stephen being caught again is Stephen saw a job opportunity in a particular insurance company as a financial officer, and he saw this was a nice opportunity. So what Stephen did, he researched about this job position and what it requires, the type of education, and also the type of people they were looking for. And Stephen had done his homework very well, and everything which they had required, he did research and also he educated himself on these particular terms of knowledge and also terms of which they use in a financial officer in a particular insurance company. So he had a vast amount of knowledge of these particular things. And also what he did, he faked his documents. And after doing all these things, he went to apply for that particular job. And applying for that particular job, just remember, Stephen was a good person in communicating and also he had the confidence. So he was able to convince the people that he is a financial officer and he has done into other companies like this, and he has prevailed in these companies and he has helped the companies in getting so much profits. So the people who are interviewing him were very well convinced, but they needed one assurance that he was working for these companies, which he said. So Stephen had to give them some reference of as long as there were three companies or more, it was a fine referee. It was a thumbs up for him. So Stephen gave them three referees, and all these referees, what he did, he put a forwarding on these particular numbers where if they are able to call that number, that it will be forwarded to his own number. So that's what the companies did. They called all those referees, and Stephen was uh, im- uh, able to impersonate those particular voices and also try to talk like he was the owner of those companies, and he was able to convince that those particular questionnaires and also members of that interview group that Stephen was the right person and he has done everything as he had said in that particular interview, and they were very well convinced that this is the person which they were looking for. And the salary was around 85,000 per year, $85,000 per year. And this was a nice amount of money for Steven. But Steven, being a crook as he was, he did one particular mistake. And the mistake was he was taking a particular refinancing of his house. And in that bank, they suspected that there was a certain type of amount of money which was being withdrawn and put into Steven's account. So what the bank did, they called the people and also that particular insurance company which the money was coming from, and they were able to call them and inform them that there are these certain types of amount of money which has been withdrawn from your account, and it has been put into this person's individual's account. So the people were very wary and started asking themselves questions, how is this? So the insurance company reported this person to the police and also the FBI. And after reporting him, they were able to be told by the FBI that this particular person is a fugitive and also he is on parole. He was in jail in the last 6 months. He was in jail. So the insurance people now started knowing that the true picture and also the true nature of this person. He was in jail and is not a financial officer. He had sketched all of this and he has impersonated that financial officer. And the one thing they knew about that Steven was good at what he does. So the FBI now started looking for Steven, and Steven was informed that everything was going bad for him. So what Steven did, he started running and he started becoming a fugitive. So one thing Steven did, he went to the ATMs and withdraw almost $40,000, and he was able to have them. But the mistake which Steven did, just the same Steven which does just the same mistakes, he tried to go back to the house which he was living so he can be able to go to his safe and take the money which was in his safe. So when he was going to the house, he didn't know that the FBIs were waiting for him to come. They had anticipated that particular move from Steven. So because Steven was making some small mistakes, so when they were waiting for him outside the house of Steven, Steven was there just coming comfortably with confidence, like nothing ever happens. He's like a normal person. It's like even the FBIs were questioning themselves, is this really Steven? They can see it is Steven, but they can't imagine this person is walking very normal. It's like nothing happens. So they were able to apprehend him and they were able to take him to court. And after taking him to court, they were able to jail Steven they jailed him for 40 years in prison. And they changed their tactics and they took him to a particular high-end prison, which was better than the others. Little did they know, Steven also in this particular prison wanted to escape. So Steven now formulated another plan. As he entered that particular prison, even he didn't finish more than 1 year. He was looking for plans and also some loopholes which can be able to escape. So what Steven did, the next move, he saw that there are particular workers which come into that particular prison, and he was able to see that these workers were medical workers and they wear a type of cloth which was green. And now it was up to Steven now to impersonate and also look for a way that he can be seen as these particular medical workers, because the medical workers were the easiest loophole which he could be able to use to escape from that prison, because they were given a certain type of freedom to get in and also out of that particular prison. So what Steven did, he looked for the clothes which he had and tried to dye them to be the color of what the medical workers were having. So after looking at that particular color which the medical workers were having, Steven was able now to impersonate that particular uniform. And after impersonating that particular uniform, Steven was able now in that day for coming out and also trying to escape from that prison. What he did, he wore that uniform which he had dyed looking like the medical covers uniform, and he was able to dye it. And after dyeing it, he wore on top the prison uniform. So he woke up early in the morning and he went for to take his breakfast. And after taking his breakfast, he looked for a particular point where it was very isolated. After looking for a point which was isolated, he removed the prison uniform. After removing the prison uniform, now he decided to wear the he remained with the particular uniform which resembles the medical uniform. So after wearing this particular uniform which resembles the medical uniform, now Stephen was able now to go and also ask the particular person which was responsible for opening the gate that he wanted to get out. And the person just looking at Stephen, they were able to see that this was our medical person which was inside that building, and they were able to let him go. And after just leaving out of the particular prison like this, Stephen just ran to the nearest car. And after running to the nearest car, he asked for a lift to go in a particular place. And they were able to give him that lift. As he alighted from that particular car, he was able now to go to another house and ask that house that I am a particular medical officer and I've been drunk, and I'm working for this particular jail, and I don't want them to know that I've been drunk, so, and I've crashed my car. So what I need from you is just give me a lift to a particular town where I can be able to recollect myself and I can be able to be myself. So that person was very generous, and he was able to give Stephen that particular lift. And after giving Stephen that lift, he was able to deliver him to the point where Stephen wanted. So after delivering him to the point where Stephen wanted, Stephen took a particular cab, and after taking that cab, he told the cab driver to take him to a particular hospital. He's late for a particular surgery, and if he doesn't take him the next 30 minutes, the patient will be able to die. So the cab driver, believing what Stephen was saying, he rushed that particular Stephen, and also he dashed through the traffic, and he was able to evade all the traffic and reached to that particular hospital. So Stephen, what he did, he told him, just give me 2 minutes, I'll be back. Just give me 2 minutes, I'll be back, and I'll be able to bring you some money. So when Stephen went inside the hospital, he was able now to run away, and he didn't come back. So the taxi driver was waiting for him, and now the taxi driver realized that Stephen had run away with the money, just the typical things which people use of running away with monies. So it didn't start lately, it started a long time ago, where you see Stephen was able to run with somebody's money in 1980s, 1990s. Over there, he was able to run with taxis person's money. So what the next thing, the FBI were able to locate his position, and at this time they were able to take him to jail. And after taking him to jail again, now what they did, the FBI now and also the court members had given Stephen a particular jail term, and also they had given Stephen a particular bail where it will be 950,000 if he wants a particular bail. So what Stephen, this was a large amount of money which Stephen was put to remove as bail. So it was a very large amount, and Stephen had no hope in removing this particular type of money. So Stephen had to look for another way and also a method to escape this particular 950,000 bail. So what he did, he took the phone of that particular jail, and also he was able to call the warden of that jail and told the warden there's a member of which I was able to give a sentence and also give a bail of 950,000. I want that member to the jail, and also the bail term of that member to be 45,000. So the warden was able to believe, because this person was talking with confidence. Little did he know it was just Stephen inside that police prison. He was the one which was talking. So the warden was able to grant Stephen 45,000 bail, and Stephen was able to come up with this money by asking and also being able to convince some particular people which they give out bail as a loan to prisoners. And after giving Stephen this particular bail of 45,000, he was able to be free again. And after FBI realizing what Stephen had done, now they were very angry, and now they were able to apprehend also Stephen again and take him to court. And now after court, they were able to sentence him around 45 years, even more. So after sentencing Stephen, now they took him to a particular prison, which was a high-end prison, and it was a maximum prison. But Stephen wanted also to escape from this prison, but this was a maximum prison. He had to have a particular idea which will outsmart all these prisoners and also all these prison guards and also the members of the FBI. And this time he wanted to make it to be a clean record where they won't be able to look for him again. So what Stephen did, he pretended to have a chronic disease. And the only thing where if you have a chronic disease, you can be granted parole. And this was the idea of Stephen, where he pretended to have some disease which was AIDS, and he was able to convince them that he was soon going to die. And what he did, he starved himself to death, and he wasn't eating any food. When he's been given food, he used to throw it or give another inmate. So Stephen was able to become slim and also slimmer, and they saw that Stephen had particular disease called AIDS. And one thing, by the help of the other prison guards, or he was able to forge his documents to say that this person had AIDS. And one thing which the prison people and also doctors made a mistake, they didn't test Stephen again. They took the word of what was in his medical records. So after taking the words, Stephen was able, now he had a final offer where if he did this thing successfully, he will be able to be taken out of that prison and be taken to parole. So what he did, he said he will be able to take the medicines which they were giving him, and he will take these medicines into overdose so he can be in a coma. So he took the medicines in overdose prescription, and he was able to be in a coma of 4 days. So when he woke up, he saw that the doctors were very serious, and they were very shocked to see that he had woke up because he was in a coma. They were very sorry for him. And this is how he was granted the parole by the particular prison, and he was taken to a particular chronic hospital, where this chronic hospital will be able to help him and also be able to diagnose him for the few days of his life. So what Stephen did, when he was taken to this particular hospital, he was able to find a phone, and he called that owner of that hospital and said, he said he's a particular doctor, and he introduced himself well, and he said that he needed some patients to have some tests with, which particularly had a certain type of disease, and that was AIDS. So the head of that particular hospital was able to say that he has a person which they can test with him, and that person was Stephen, because Stephen at this end of point was giving all the type of descriptions which Stephen had. So the people in that hospital had no other option but to pick Stephen, because he came out to be as that person was describing. So what he did, he said that Stephen should be delivered him to a particular hospital, and in that hospital Stephen will be able to stay there, where they can do for him experiments. So this hospital was able to deliver him to that another hospital, and in that hospital, that doctor wrote, Stephen being himself, he was able to forge documents and also the certificates, and wrote it back to that particular hospital and told the hospital, this person which you gave me has died due to this AIDS, and he became very sick, and he died in less than 1 week. So Stephen was free again, and at this time he was dead because he had a death certificate. This time also the FBI's and also the county jail, they didn't have any time looking for him because they knew Stephen was dead. So later on in the years, just normal Stephen, he had a life to live where he could not be followed again. But Stephen did one mistake which led him to be investigated again. What he did, he tried to print some fake IDs for a particular lawyer, and this fake IDs, the person which he gave him to print the particular IDs was able to contact the FBI and told him that there was a particular person which seemed suspicious and wanted to print the IDs. So the FBI asked that type of IDs which they wanted. Luckily, that person had taken pictures of that ID and was able to give the FBI's. And after FBI's looking at that ID, they were able to know that that ID was belonging to none other than Stephen, which was a fugitive. So the FBI called the county jail people and told them what happened to Stephen. Is Stephen still in that prison, or he has escaped? The county prisoners and also the county guards and also people of that jail told the FBI Stephen died a long time ago, and we are sorry for the death of Stephen. But little did they know that Stephen had faked his own death. So the FBI were very angry and didn't know what type of person Stephen was, and he was able to go this trouble and escape all this number of times. And they saw that this person which they were dealing with was a unique fraudster, and he was the top level fraudster. So what the FBI did, they were able to now started looking for tracks of Stephen, and they were able now to apprehend Stephen again for the fourth time. And this time they took Stephen in a particular jail where he was jailed for almost 114 years without any parole. And until today, he was jailed in 1998. Until today, he has never found a way in escaping in this type of prison. But you can never know, because Stephen is Stephen, and he is also in search for ways of escaping. If he was able to escape all this number of times and also faking his death, you can never know what this man has in store for the FBI. So that's the story of the man who has escaped for so many times. And I hope you like this story. And if you like this story, please give it a thumbs up and also subscribe to my channel. I've tried to make this story short as possible. So thank you for watching this video. Till I meet you next time. Thank you.